All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are completely tearing up the traditional spelling rulebook. Seriously, if you've ever watched a national spelling bee and wondered how on earth those competitors manage to spell words they have quite literally never heard before, well, you're in exactly the right place. Think of this as your tactical playbook for mastering English spelling. We're moving way beyond rote memorization here. Instead, we're going to train you to act like a true word detective. And we're going to do it by dissecting one of the absolute most powerful Latin roots in the English language, MANUS.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the champion's mindset, trace some language pathways, open up the spelling detective toolkit, dodge a few common spelling traps, run our own mini spelling bee, and then finish up with a championship review. Okay, let's dive into this.
Section 1. The champion's mindset. How elite spellers think.
Let's shatter a pretty common illusion right off the bat. Elite spellers? They don't just have photographic memories where they're frantically flipping through some mental dictionary. No way. When they hear a word for the very first time, they don't panic. They investigate. They essentially ask 5 critical questions. What's the language of origin? Can I hear a familiar root? Is there a recognizable prefix? What about a familiar suffix? And finally, does the definition actually match the root meaning? Answer these, and honestly, you don't even need to have seen the word before to spell it perfectly.
Section 2. Tracing language pathways. The journey of words.
So why do we actually care where a word comes from? Well, because a word doesn't just, teleport from ancient Rome into modern English. It travels, and it picks up some really fascinating luggage along the way. Take the word manufacture, for example. It starts back in antiquity as the Latin manufactura, travels through the Middle Ages as the French manufacture, and finally lands in the modern era in English. And this brilliantly illustrates why understanding that French middle step is so crucial. It helps you predict why certain vowels and consonants behave the way they do today. It's really all about tracing the family tree.
Section 3. The spelling detective toolkit. Decoding MANUS. Okay, here is where we get highly tactical with morphology, which by the way is really just a fancy academic way of saying how words are built out of pieces. We are decoding the Latin root manius, meaning hand. Now notice how this root can shift slightly when it forms English words. We've got manu, as in manual, manufacture, and manuscript, but we also see mani with an I, as in manipulate. So the crucial point is that the historical connection remains perfectly intact, even when the connecting vowels shift around just to make the word a bit easier to pronounce. As a word detective, you're always looking for that underlying structure, not necessarily just the exact same letters every time.
We also have these fantastic morphological building blocks. Think of them like Lego bricks. You have prefixes like re, mis, un, and e, and then suffixes like tation, meant, able, and idity. These specific prefixes and suffixes snap directly onto our MANUS root. Emphasizing morphological chunking like this is just incredibly powerful, because recognizing a suffix like tation or meant doesn't just help you spell the end of the word, it instantly tells you the word's part of speech. It takes a massive, intimidating word and breaks it down into 3 super easy, manageable chunks.
Section 4. Avoiding common spelling traps. Defense mechanisms.
Listen, the English language is absolutely famous for its chaotic trick plays, so you've got to have your defense mechanisms ready. Imposters are literally everywhere. Let's take the word manual. Yes, related to manus, but manifest? No. Even though it literally starts with M-A-N-I, it develops from manifestus entirely differently. What about man or many? Nope, scratch that, those are of Germanic origin. But manager? Actually, yes. That comes to us via the Italian maneggiare, meaning to handle. The takeaway here, always verify the origin. Never ever rely on a word's appearance alone.
And here is a classic root battle. We know manus is the Latin root for hand, giving us words like manual and manufacture. But what happens if the word means hand and the origin is Greek? Well, then you're looking at cheer or chiro, which gives us words like chiropractor or chironomy. So if the pronouncer tells you the word's origin is Greek, your brain should immediately just lock out the manus root completely.
It is remarkably easy to fall into these traps. For instance, it's super common to confuse manual, which relates to hands, with manorial, which relates to an estate. It's also really tempting to try and spell entirely by sound. That is a massive mistake when you hit tricky stress patterns in words like manubrium or meneduction, where the vowels kind of just get swallowed up when we speak, or missing structural suffixes altogether. Spelling a word based on how you mumble it rather than the clear, distinct, able or meant suffix it structurally requires. The golden rule? Spell by structure, never just by sound.
Section 5. The mini spelling bee.
Scrimmage time?
All right, let's do a rapid-fire practical application of the playbook we just talked about. Close your eyes if you need to and actively visualize those morphological building blocks snapping together in your mind. Okay? Word number 1, emancipation. The word is emancipation. It is a noun. The definition is the act of freeing from slavery or releasing from someone's literal or figurative hands. The origin is Latin. So, can you identify the prefix, the root, and the suffix?
And here is the structural breakdown. E-M-A-N-C-I-P-A-T-I-O-N. You've got the prefix E, meaning out. You have manus for hand. You've got a variation of capere, meaning to take. And finally, the noun suffix tation. So it literally means the act of taking out of someone's hands. I mean, it proves how perfectly the definition aligns with the spelling when you rely on the roots, right?
Let's try word number 2. Bimanual. The word is bimanual. It's an adjective. The definition is requiring the use of 2 hands. The origin is Latin. So think about what prefix means to. Combine it with our Latin root for hand, and cap the whole thing off with a standard adjective suffix.
Bimanual. Bimanual. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just how beautifully clear the structure is. You have bi for 2, manus for hand, and ao for that adjective suffix. The outer blocks snap perfectly into place right around the core manus root. There is absolutely zero guesswork required here.
Okay, time for the final, highly challenging spelling bee word. Manumission. The word is manumission. It's a noun. The definition is the act of releasing from the hand, specifically referring to liberation or formal emancipation from slavery. The origin is Latin. Now, navigate the pronunciation trap carefully here and think very closely about which noun suffix fits this historical legal term.
M-A-N-U-M-I-S-S-I-O-M. Manumission. We have manus for hand, mittere meaning to send or let go, and the noun suffix shun. If you acted like a true word detective here, you identified that double S suffix pattern based directly on the root mittere rather than just randomly guessing how to spell the shun sound at the end of the word. Really fantastic work.
Section 6, Championship Review, Your Playbook Summary.
We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, all the way from historical language pathways right down to identifying those sneaky morphological imposters. So let's solidify the overarching techniques so you can actually apply them to any word, not just the ones using the manus root. Here's your lightning summary. Listen carefully to the pronunciation, but never spell purely by sound. Identify the core root. Recognize your prefixes and your suffixes. Use the definition as a direct structural clue. Rely heavily on the language of origin to filter out the wrong root families, and always check for familiar spelling patterns. Great spellers use structural logic. Rote memorization? That's just for amateurs.
To really cement this, I challenge you to create your very own spelling detective notebook. Try logging your words across these 6 categories: the word itself, the language of origin, the prefix, the root, the suffix, and your specific spelling strategy. Try to break down 5 new words daily. Find their structural secrets.
Because ultimately, championship spelling isn't about the words you already know. It's all about how you approach the words you don't know. So the next time you hear a massive, intimidating, entirely unfamiliar word, you have a choice to make. Will you guess or will you investigate?